Well, I'm here with the founders of the Edgescon conference, and we're going to talk about the background to the conference, what's coming, and most importantly, why this conference. But before we get into that, it would be great to hear from everybody. Can you say a little bit about who you are, the organization you represent? Would that be okay? And maybe Caroline, would you like to start?
I can start if you like.
Go ahead.
My name is Caroline Chavez. I am the co-founder and chief executive of Kink Knowledgeable. And this is my partner and husband.
Hi, I'm Peter Chirinos. I'm the president of Kink Knowledgeable and also one of the founders of Edgescon.
We were looking to fill a gap within the clinical and research field in relation to kink. There's a number of people that will speak at a conference occasionally, but nothing really that was dedicated to kink and or BDSM. And we were in partnership with Dominic at Kink Therapy at the time, and the idea occurred to us that we should partner with him to hold an online international conference. That's how the idea came about.
And to add to that as well, some of the conferences and, well, the educational information that we had found for professionals on this particular topic really, while they were helpful and informative, they didn't address some of the levels of complexity and the depth and breadth of BDSM and kink-involved relationships and couples. So that really was one of the primary forces of us collaborating and developing Edgescon.
And in talking with Dominic in Kink Therapy, we realized this is very clinical heavy, and we really wanted to augment a conference in strong empirical research-based information for the community. And that's when we talked with Richard, who is a member of our Kink Knowledgeable Advisory Board, and we invited him and Tashra, his organization, to become partnered with us. And we're just absolutely delighted to have both Dominic and Richard in this with us. It's just delightful.
Well, that's a great introduction also for Dominic and Richard. Fantastic. What a lovely recommendation. And Dominic, could you say a little bit about your organization and kind of why you picked up this invite from Caroline and Peter?
Sure. We I run an organization called Kink Therapy, as you know, John, and probably some of your viewers at Online Events will know. And we've been involved in training therapists around the world in gender, sexual, and relationship diversity. So part of that is also we have modules on BDSM and kink, and so I was very interested to partner up with Caroline and Peter, because at Kink Knowledgeable they've got a training program on that takes things beyond just the kind of basic 101, because as Caroline and Peter were saying, that there's a lot of 101 stuff, just basic introduction to BDSM and kink, but nothing that really takes it too much further. And we wanted to kind of be able to develop that knowledge further. And so I've been supervising a bunch of therapists for a few years in the UK that were kink identified therapists, and Kink Therapy is putting on a conference in London in just a couple of weeks' time at the beginning of October on BDSM. It's our first kind of in-person conference on this subject. It was a whole conference theme. And we thought, well, it would be really good to do something online and just expand the field, really, because lots of people can't get to London. But we have some expertise in the UK, and there's a lot of expertise in the States. And so being able to put on something internationally online would be a really valuable thing. So it was a kind of no-brainer to partner up with them, and they're just adorable, really. You know, look at them, adorable.
Irresistible.
Yeah. We have a lot of fun in our meetings. There's a lot of banter. So
There's an
we bring a lot of
enormous
joy to our work.
As well as organising the conference, all the work that takes. Sounds like you guys are having fun already. I love that. Yeah. And so thank you, Dominic. It's great to get a sense of the work that you're doing in the UK, and which is very well known in the UK. And so lovely to make contact with some new people who are getting to know the work perhaps in other countries. Yeah. Richard, you've already had a lovely introduction from Caroline and Peter too. Could you tell us a bit more about you and your work, please? Yeah.
Okay, sure. By training, I'm a developmental psychologist. I do a lot of research on kink identity and health, sort of health disparities and health issues around kink sexuality and identity. As part of that, I'm the research director for an organization called TASHRA, which is the Alternative Sexualities Health Research Alliance. Started with a physician and a licensed clinical social worker here in San Francisco. And we do a lot of research, and because of that, we are aware that training in this area is very hard to find for clinicians. The data suggests that, at least 75% of therapists and counselors will have a kink-involved client at some point, and many of them do not feel prepared. And given some other data, it really suggests that kinky people really do have a hard time finding a therapist or a counselor who really understands or is even aware, let alone knowledgeable. So because of that need, I think that anything that we can do to bring the clinical expertise and the research to this topic and to get it out to as many people as possible ultimately will really help people in need. So that's why I jumped on this as soon as I heard about it. Certainly has been fun. Dominic is right. There's a lot of friendly, fun banter. We certainly have fun doing this. At the same time, I'm always impressed by how committed this group of people is to bring these ideas and this experience to clinical work and to push the boundaries of research.
Yeah, and it sounds really important that you've seen in the research that a lot of colleagues, a lot of us are in practice without that awareness that really makes a difference to kink identified clients. Like clients might even be coming to us and not disclosing really important parts of their lives, and then are not able to get support and understanding. And yeah,
absolutely. Yes.
So it gets me thinking, so what are people going to get from this conference? Like what is going to be on offer? Yeah.
I think that the one of the really essential, important aspects of the conference, as well as our respective trainings, is not only obtaining the knowledge, but being able to apply that knowledge in varied clinical settings, in clinical kinds of contexts. Because BDSM and kink relationships really run a very wide and broad spectrum of dynamics. And so it really requires clinicians to understand those dynamics, but also the research and how to translate that research into practice. And where research is absent, how do you make best clinical judgment and decisions that may or may not be a personal decision that you would, as the therapist, make?
I want to build on what Peter said, because one of the things that binds all three of us together is that we're looking to build bridges between clinicians' needs for knowledge and understanding and training and researchers to research the gaps that currently exist in the field. And what is the thing that people are going to get out of Edges Conference? It is about really understanding the edge of knowledge and clinical best practice in kink identified clients and research. And what I mean by that is we have a whole host of fascinating topics and both clinicians and researchers talking about what is absolutely new and emerging and on the edge of what is known about this genre. Maybe, Richard, you can say something about a little bit about the program that we're building.
Well, one of the things that we're going to put front and center over the course of the conference is intersectionality. It's this idea that there's a tremendous amount of diversity, as Peter was saying, not in relationships, in different kinds of relationships, but there's also a lot of differences that people experience when it comes to their kink sexuality or their kink identity because of where they're living, different kinds of intersections between racial, ethnic identity and sexuality identity. So that's an area that doesn't get a lot of attention because in many ways, we are still at the very beginning of understanding this kind of sexuality. And a lot of things about those intersections are not really addressed. So we really want to push that and talk about what little there is out there and what needs to happen next.
Right.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. Like the leading edges of the research, and like what needs to come next. Very, very important. And Dominic, I'm also thinking you've really been at the forefront for many years in the UK of raising awareness amongst therapists, or perhaps this hasn't been the center of their work, but to really expand their awareness of who might be coming into their practice. So I'm thinking maybe many of the colleagues at Online Events certainly will be watching this video. Maybe they will have one or two clients in their practice over time. Is this a conference for colleagues who are not making sexuality like the focus of their practice? Maybe they specialize in other areas?
I think that what we've tried to do is pitch this beyond the just basic 101 introduction to BDSM. We hope that we'll find a way before the conference to make some videos available for people to, if they don't know much about BDSM, get some basic information, because we want to pitch it to a slightly higher level of more intermediate and advanced experience, really. But we're going to be having conversations around consent, around the kind of different client issues that might be brought, what it might be, some of the supervision and practice issues and the challenges, particularly if you're already a kink identified clinician and you're socializing in the same field, in the same areas as your clients, and how you manage those professional boundaries and ethical dilemmas. And then stuff to do with BDSM as a healing practice. In various ways it can be thought of as kind of a therapeutic practice in its own right. So having some of the kind of world's leading experts talking around some of these things and really teasing stuff out, I think it's going to be a very rich experience. 4 Friday afternoons for the UK-based time, 4 Friday afternoons in February. So it's a very manageable experience. There's new themes every week. If you miss one, you'll get something interesting the following week. It's an exciting project.
Yes. Well, let's get explicit about the format, because we're saying conference, and I'm sure a lot of colleagues will be thinking, oh, so where is it going to be? But it's going to be online. The 4 Fridays in February, there'll be online content. Could you guys say a little bit more about how that's going to work? Or? Like what's the format? Or, I mean, some of this stuff is emerging. We're right at the beginning of putting all this together, but I guess the attendees will be logging in and in an environment like this in Zoom and participating.
Correct. What we are encouraging potential participants to do is to log in, register either for one of the days or all 4 of the days. We are also providing continued education credits, both APA and ASECT. And what we are then going to do is give people on the day of the conference a URL to watch it live, so that they can participate, come in, watch the conference, ask questions. The value of being in the world as opposed to a particular physical location is people don't have to pay airfares, hotel bills, etc. They can avail themselves of the information online, either live or through recordings. And all they need to do is register an interest and register for the conference.
So we're going to have a number of key speakers each day. Some will speak for 20 minutes on a subject. Others will be speaking for a bit longer. There'll be some panel discussions or some people in conversation with each other. We're trying to pitch a variety of different formats so that people will find things easy to follow and not be listening to one person talking for too long, because paying attention, especially I think online, can be quite difficult. So we want to kind of break it up with various mixed formats and use the platform as best we can, really.
We're really proud of the fact that we're not only dealing with leading edge topics, we're also being leading edge in terms of online conferencing. And of course, we're going to learn from this first one, but we are really putting together a really exciting, multifaceted process each day.
Yeah. One of the things that we're also thinking very critically about is how to make this online conference very interactive and personable for the attendees. And ease of use is also part of that as well.
Richard, do you want to add anything to that about what we're doing, how, and?
I think it's important to also emphasize that one of the goals we have for doing this kind of online conference is to build a network, is to build connections between people who are doing work in this area, something that will last beyond, the 4 days, the 4 Fridays in February. That is a very important ultimate goal. And we want the interactive aspects of the online experience to really help build that. And so we have been talking about and thinking about and planning different ways to really support that kind of connecting, networking aspect. It's just very common that a lot of people feel isolated when they're doing this kind of work, either as research or as a therapist or counselor. And that's a big thing. So we really are emphasizing that we want to make this as engaging, but also as connecting as possible.
And building bridges between clinicians and researchers, building communities.
Well, and being online makes the conference accessible, not having to hotels and train fares. Could be in the UK, certainly could be seeing clients in the morning and jumping into the conference in the afternoon. And I think the internet has also, as much as it can be a scary place, has also felt like a place of safety for many different tribes of humanity. And I think that's also one of the real advantages of this conference. It feels like environment that's being created is going to be one of real safety for the participants to come and explore and talk. And, is that part of your intention too?
Yes, and we hope so. And another thing, Richard and Dominic, you didn't talk about was our range of international speakers.
Mm-hmm.
We're really, I think, again, leading edge in bringing all of these people together, probably for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Race Ben, Meg John Barker, yeah.
Just to name a couple.
So very good. I think that I could speak for everyone in saying that we're all very, very excited about this endeavor, and yeah, I'm very glad to be partnered with all of you as well.
Yeah,
I can feel that there's a great relationship here, and I think that makes a big difference in an event. It's not like that obviously helps the work that's going on behind the scenes. Yeah. But every event has an atmosphere, and that atmosphere is really generates from the founders. And I can kind of feel the relationship that the four of you have. And I know there's a colleague who couldn't make it today and isn't here, but I'm sure that's shared and is going to really inform the environment of these 4 Fridays. Yeah.
Good.
Any parting words to someone who's thinking, oh, am I going to hit that button and buy a ticket, invest the time and the money? What do you think? What would you say to that colleague? They're on the website right now. They're thinking, are they going to spend the time and the effort? What do you say?
Well, I would say that there is really, how many places do you get to really hear about this particular topic? Yes, in many ways, people often think that kink sexuality is something that rarely happens, or in some sort of way, is something that they're just not going to have to deal with. And I think the fact that there is a place where you can actually hear about this stuff from some of the best people working in this area is an amazing opportunity, and it doesn't come across very often.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that you can do that from the comfort of your own home. That you don't have to fly to the other side of the world in order to be able to attend something. You can sit down and you can log in and you can participate and listen to some really interesting conversations happening.
Mm-hmm. I think that one of the things that is, for me, very important about the work that we're doing in Kink Knowledgeable and the founders is that some therapists may say, well, I don't have any clients who are involved with BDSM. I don't know anyone who is involved in BDSM. But I think that it goes beyond that. And focus and the deeper understanding of what the work we're doing is around understanding the other. And so how do you understand someone who is so dramatically and diametrically opposite to you? So I think that everyone has felt in some way, shape, or form, or has known someone who has been othered because of either their race, their gender, their sexual orientation. And so this really gets to what is the process of understanding those who are dramatically different than you.
And I would reiterate everything my colleagues have said. But to answer your question, what would I say to the person listening to this with their finger poised, maybe going, will I, won't I? All I would say is just do it. Push the button. You won't regret it. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Come on in.
What a warm welcome. Well, I'm really very pleased to be part of the team. I'm excited to be part of those 4 afternoons. I know for me as a practitioner, I'm looking forward to being stretched and to learning And yeah, just because it's going to be a fantastic learning experience for all of us in that environment.
Maybe we should coin a leap off the edge, folks. Jump off.
Jump off, push the button, and join us for those 4 Fridays in February 2019.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Peter, Dominic, and Richard for being here and just giving us a flavour of what's coming, how the conference is going to be. It just sounds irresistible to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.